Hi everyone, welcome back to Alice on the Giant Bookshelf. My name's Alice and today's video is all about all of the books that I read in August. Welcome to my August wrap up. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Alice and I have an absolutely giant TBR. It's currently sitting at over 200 books. Back in June, I think it was, I made a video all about my entire TBR of unread books. I'll link that up here somewhere so that you can check that out if you would like to. At that time I had, I think it was around 220 books, and I got a few for my birthday in June as well. So it has, at the last check-in, the giant TBR was sitting at 218 books. So today we're going to see if we've made any progress and if that number has hopefully gone down. In the meantime, we're going to be talking about what I read in August, and that was a total of 11 books. In that 11 books there were 2 audiobooks and there were 2 books that were rereads. There was also one book that I found last month that I realised I hadn't read before, and I thought I had when I counted the giant TBR, so it wasn't on the giant TBR, so I haven't counted it when taking books off the TBR. First of all, I thought I would just let you know which books from my TBR for August I did not yet read. So I have started this one, Bookworm by Lucy Mangan. I started this yesterday on the last day of August, and I think it will probably be my very first read of September. So definitely still going to read this one. The second book I didn't get to in August was Agatha Christie's autobiography. I just haven't had time to commit to this weighty book, but I definitely will be reading it in September because September is Agatha Christie's birthday month. So I'm looking forward to reading this month instead. Now, the only book I didn't read from the books that I didn't really want to read, that I was forcing myself to, was The A to Z of Everything. I don't know whether I will read this in September, but I might do a try a chapter challenge and see if I'm going to read this at all, because I'm not convinced. And finally, I still haven't yet read my Agatha Christie graphic biography, and I haven't read this yet because I want to read the autobiography first and then read this cool comic book version of Agatha Christie's life. So there's 3 books there that I would like to read in September and one that we're not too sure about. But apart from that, I got through the rest of my TBR for August. I've already made one video about the books I read in the first half of the month, and I've already made a video about one of the books I buddy read in the month. So I won't be going into great detail on books that I've already talked about, but I am going to try and give you one thing I loved and one thing I didn't love about each book. And I'm going to work my way through in categories again. So the categories this month are didn't like, okay, good, and favourites of the month. So we'll end on a high with the favourites. Let's start though with books that I didn't like, and unfortunately there were actually 2. The first one was Get Out of Town, which is a book linked to the series Riverdale. I've already spoken about this one. The one thing I did like about it was I thought it wrote the characters moderately well, and it was a really quick read. However, it was like reading fan fiction. There were typos in it, and overall it was just not a book where I felt like anything remotely interesting happened. So into the didn't like category for Riverdale, and this one will definitely be being unhauled. Secondly, in my didn't like category, we have No Time for Goodbye. In my Friday reads last week, I had started this and I was struggling. This is actually the closest I've come to DNFing a book in years. I almost wish that I do DNF books because this one just turned out not to be worth it. The reason why I decided to keep reading was because I just wanted to know the answer to the mystery that it centred around. But the problem was I didn't actually care about any of the characters. So when the mystery did actually wrap up, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. And yeah, even the conclusion was a disappointment. So the one thing I liked about this book was it did have quite a good climactic scene in it. And the one thing I really didn't like about this book was basically everything else about it. It's not for me. I won't be picking up any more Linwood Barclay, and I will be unhauling this. Okay, on into the okay category. I have put, this probably could have scraped into good, but it's another book that I didn't particularly want to read, Theodore Boone by John Grisham. I actually did really enjoy Theodore Boone, and I read this in the last couple of days of the month. It was, to be honest, a bit young for me. I didn't really realise this was going to be sort of aimed at middle grade, and I don't think the book itself is really that sure who it's aimed at. Theo himself is 13 years old, I think, but this book came across as quite a young book. I don't think I would put it in the young adult category, even though it did involve a murder trial. This was really interesting. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I don't think I really enjoyed the way it was written particularly. But Theo Boone is a great character. I would be interested in reading more about him. I just didn't feel like an awful lot actually happened in this book. So what did I like about it? Theo's a very likeable character, and I enjoyed hearing the details of his life in general. What I didn't like about it was that in the end there wasn't much of a conclusion. It just sort of ended, so not great. But yeah, this could have snuck into the good category. Maybe I've been a bit harsh, but I'm going to put it in the okay category. I will be unhauling this, but I wouldn't say no to reading another book about Theo Boone if it came my way in the future. So now we are on to the good books, and I'm going to start with the first one I read, which was The Blindfold. What I liked about this was it's very quirky, it had a very interesting writing style. I definitely will be picking up more Siri Hustvedt books, and I do have 2 more on my shelf to read. What I didn't particularly like about it was some very unlikable characters, and yeah, I just didn't know what to make of some of this. It's a little bit strange. So, but if you like strange books, you can't go far wrong with it. It's more like reading 4 short stories, but I still enjoyed it. And yeah, this was a surprise this month. It's probably, this is the highest that I've rated a book that I didn't want to read. So this one came out well. This was a nice surprise. Next we have The Caribbean Mystery. This was a Miss Marple, Agatha Christie book. I've already spoken about it in my other video. What I really liked about this was Miss Marple's ingenuity and the funny moments in the book, and I really enjoyed discussing it with Christie Fest. What I didn't like about this book was actually the chapters that didn't feature Miss Marple. There were a few slightly boring chapters. Luckily they were quite short, which were more about a policeman and a doctor. Aside from that, it's a very readable, very good mystery. I enjoyed it much more on the reread than I did the first time I read it, so that was a good book. Right, the last book in the good category, and this could have scraped into the favourites of the month. Maybe I should put it in the favourites of the month. Okay, this is incredibly close to being a favourite of the month, but I'm going to put it at the very top of the good category. We'll call it very good. And that was Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. It's a really intriguing Victorian sensation novel, and I thoroughly enjoyed this one. There were some parts where Mary Elizabeth Braddon maybe used a little bit too much description where she didn't need it. That was the only thing negative really I could say about it. But I loved the mystery. The characters were absolutely great, and I really enjoyed the way Mary Elizabeth Braddon comments on Victorian society's treatment of women through the character of Lady Audley, who is so interesting and so dislikable. This is a cracking mystery. If you get a chance to try this, I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a very refreshing Victorian novel. So yeah, really enjoyed Lady Audley's Secret. Probably by far the easiest to read Victorian novel I've read so far, and I didn't know what to expect, so it was really good to read a Victorian novel where you didn't know what to expect. Also in my good category, but definitely very good, bordering on favourites, were my 2 audiobooks of the month, which were Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. I really enjoyed these, and they probably would have gone into the favourites of the month if the month had ended a bit earlier, so I suppose I've forgotten them a little bit now, but they were both great books. I particularly enjoyed Ruin and Rising, I think, because it was a great ending to the series. I have since been listening to Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and I have to say that although pretty much everybody has said to me that it's better than Shadow and Bone trilogy, I'm not enjoying it as much so far, but I'm sure I'm going to get into it, so hopefully that will turn out good too. And finally, we get to the favourites of the month. My first favourite of the month was another reread. It was Agatha Christie's Why Didn't They Ask Evans? This was a buddy read with Rachel. We had a great time reading this. We really enjoyed the characters of Frankie, Lady Frances Derwent, and Bobby, and I absolutely wish Agatha Christie had written more about these two. They were fantastic. I enjoyed it possibly even more on a reread, but definitely as much as I did before, and I enjoyed it a lot before. And this is just a really underrated Agatha Christie. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend it. It's a good standalone. Was there anything I didn't like about Why Didn't They Ask Evans? I think the only thing maybe I don't like about it is a little bit slow for the characters to realise that something suspicious is going on, but it was quite enjoyable anyway, knowing that we knew more than the characters did, and it did keep me guessing till the very end, even though it was a second read of this one, so I rate this very highly. Well done, Agatha Christie. Okay, my second favourite book of the month is going to be this one, which I read on the very last day of August, and it's Louise Rennison's fab final confessions of Georgia Nicholson. The title is Are These My Bazoomas I See Before Me? I was so looking forward to this one because I realised after making my giant TBR that I still had just one of the Georgia Nicholson books left to read, book 10. These are diary-like books, just hilarious tales of a teenager called Georgia Nicholson, and I've enjoyed these since I was a teenager myself. I've probably always read these when I've been a little bit too old for the target audience, but they just make me laugh so much, and this one was no exception. It didn't let me down. My only sadness with this book is that now all the books are over. Hello, Harry. Hi there. All right. Good boy. Good boy. Do you like this book? A good book? Yeah, it's a favourite book, isn't it? Sorry about that. So yeah, so Georgia Nicholson, absolute perfection. Louise Rennison couldn't have really given this series a better ending. It was so fab where Georgia ended up and what happened at the very end. I think fans of Georgia Nicholson had probably been waiting for that moment for a very long time without spoiling anything. Yeah, I will look back on this book series with great fondness. I will definitely be reading them again. These are some of the few books in my life that I've reread multiple times, and they are total comfort reads. They make me laugh every single time. This one I laughed out loud in about maybe 10 different places, maybe more. It was just so funny. There's just something about the way Louise Rennison writes the character of Georgia Nicholson and the way Georgia presents this as her diary. They just crack me up. Her school life with her friends is just so funny. If you're too old for these, I still think they're very funny. And I don't care that I'm too old for them, really. They have a nostalgia factor for me, but they just make me laugh. My only negative about this is that the series is now over, and very sad to know that there won't be any more Georgia Nicholson books or any more Louise Renison books because the author sadly passed away. So a bittersweet read, this one, because I knew it was the end, but absolutely fantastic. Definitely a favourite of the month. And finally, my top favourite of the month. This is now probably in top place for my favourite book of the year. It's certainly in the running, is Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. I devoted a whole Friday reads to this last week, so if you want to hear more of my opinions about Rebecca, do go and check that video out. My buddy read this with the lovely Shelley Swearingen, and we had a great time with this book. I won't speak for exactly what Shelley thought, but I think we were both in agreement that we loved this book. The read went really quickly for us, and yeah. My negative about this book is that it made me buy too many crumpets and eat far too many crumpets with lots and lots of butter, because Daphne du Maurier just could not stop talking about afternoon teas in this book. So if all the supermarkets have a run on crumpets, I blame Daphne du Maurier. My top positive about this book is probably Manderley itself. The presence of Manderley in this book, the massive house, the nature descriptions. What I liked about this book is just endless, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since I read it, which is a great mark of a great book. I think I'm going to revisit the Hitchcock film soon. If you'd like to see a video comparing this to its two most famous film adaptations, please do let me know in the comments below, because that's something I could consider doing. Really enjoyed this. A great one to finish my wrap up on. All that remains this month is to see how did the TBR go down. I read 7 from my shelves, but the Georgia Nicholson one isn't counting because I didn't count it when I counted the TBR. So I've left it off, so we're taking away 6. At the start of the month, we were at 218 books. The new total for the end of August is 212 books. I will get this number under 200 one day. I'm quite determined. I'm hoping all of my reading of Shakespeare in Shakestember is not going to impact too much on getting some more read, because I really, 200 is in sight and I really want to get below it. I don't mind having a big TBR, but getting under 200 will be a huge milestone. So stay tuned if you enjoy watching people trying to get through giant TBRs and talking about books. I would love to have you here as a subscriber on my channel, so please do click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Please do give this video a like if you enjoyed my wrap up of the month. I hope you've all had a brilliant reading time in August and are looking forward to more reading in September. Please do comment down below if you read a really good book in August. I would love to hear what it was. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll all join me again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.